And we have with us, I'll stop sharing the screen. We have with us our very dear Sister Manda. Thank you, Sister Manda, who has joined all the way from UK. And all of us know her very well, but we have a few new participants as well, Didi. So I'll just introduce a little bit about you. Hope that's okay. So Sister Manda has been practicing this journey for almost 40 years now, I must say. And she spent her time in the UK coordinating the administrative activities there initially for the first 5 years, 87 to 93 at the GCH, Corporation House. And quite a few years, almost 20 years from 93 to 21, and still maybe going on as a director of Brahmakumari's GRC in Oxford. And what I like about Sister Manda is her clarity about everything. Whenever she speaks, it's very simple and lucid and very clear. So I'm sure whatever questions you have today about solitude will be clarified by her more in detail as well. So again, as always, a few more minutes before I pass it on to her, a small poem on her and solitude together this time. So Sister Manda, again, you can see her face has the natural ability to be in introversion, thereby helping all of us to discover a new version and keep away from the disturbing sense of extroversion, which we have been discussing. This indeed helps us to avoid all sorts of coercion, just as Maya is waiting to invade us by incursion. So let's keep it away, the Maya away, by dipping into spiritual immersion, because life has given many challenges, which are like mental exertion. But by connecting with the Supreme, life has taken a beautiful excursion. Are you ready for that? And now I can tell everyone from my experience with a lot of assertion that don't wait any longer and let the divine do the needed intervention. So with this, I would welcome Sister Manda. Thank you once again to find out time from your busy schedule for us. Thanks. Over to you.
Thank you, Manoj Bhai. Om Shanti, everyone. And yes, special greetings to everyone from here, from the UK. It's 3:30 in the afternoon. And in actual fact, we have a special event happening here today. And I've taken time from that. We have Brahma Kumari's UK teachers from all over the UK. And there are 85 of them. In fact, they're sitting with Sister Jayanti right now, while I'm sitting with all of you. But I have to say that every topic that you all explore, you exhaust it completely. And in the most positive way, of course, you explore it, you practice it, you go into the depth of it, you hear from each other, you also hear from senior yogis. And then when it comes at the end, when someone like me has to share, it makes me wonder, what is there left for me to say that's going to interest you or hold your attention, if you like. But I think that since I've been listening last hour when you've all been talking, my sense is that you know all the right things to do. You also know what it is that gets in the way of doing what we have to do. So one of the things that I feel that might help is to share my own experience and some of the things that I have learned to understand about life generally. And sometimes we can be hard on ourselves when we're on a journey because we see something in a certain way and then we want to go in that direction. There are other things that come along, sometimes from outside of ourselves, but actually my sense is mostly from inside of ourselves. And if there's anyone that can, should I say, manage those internal hindrances that come in the way, it's me. and I just have to learn to understand myself more. Something that I learned a while back, and in a sense I knew it. You know, you've been hearing about solitude and introversion and extroversion. You haven't spoken of introversion and extroversion so much. I think it came up once. But a few years ago, I was talking to someone and she recommended a book to me, which I bought. And there aren't many books that I read from cover to cover, but this one was very fascinating for me. And this book was called Quiet. The title of the book is Quiet: The Power of Introverts in a World That Can't Stop Talking. The Power of Introverts in a World That Can't Stop Talking. And I was fascinated by this because actually by nature, I am an extrovert. And my understanding of extroverts was that it's not good because you're talking all the time, you're expressive, you're loud, you're fast, all of this. But actually, as I began to understand more, I began to do some exercises that were part of this book called Quiet. And I began to realize that both of these are parts of me, the introvert and extrovert. Yes, there are times extroversion is a very prominent part of me. And the extroversion, the quality of extroverts is that they are good at picking up information from outside of themselves, that they are, they have the need to connect to people, and they begin to process information and understand things by taking information from outside of themselves, which could mean what they see, what they smell, what they feel, what they touch outside, what the energy they pick up, all of that, but also through a lot of talking. I know that for my own self also, I think on my feet. So which means that when you put me in a tricky situation, and I'm good at getting myself out of there because I think on my feet and I'm fast at thinking. Whereas, and also extroverts are very fast, speedy. In contrast to that, introverts are people that are very quiet. They need to spend time by themselves. It comes naturally for them to spend time by themselves. It's easy for them. They process their thinking. They're not so quick at responding. And what Susan Cain, the author of this book that I'm telling you about, was saying was that actually this is the natural nature of all of us, ultimately. But it was in the early 20th century that extroversion became very fashionable and popular and taught specifically even at Harvard University, which meant that people who can use PowerPoints and be methodical in their expression, they fast and they express themselves, are very impressive. They impress people. Whereas the introverts, they need time to process information. So if you ask them a question, they don't give you an answer very quickly. Whereas extroverts can do that very quickly. Now, why I'm telling you this is because I went on a little journey of exploration of my own self. Because as I said, I'm an extrovert by nature, which means being in solitude or being introvert was a big test for me. There was a part of me that was attracted to that, drawn to that, and I wanted it, but action, interaction, doing making things happen, holding big projects, multitasking. All of this was my specialty. I could do it so easily. And you know what they say, that if you want something done, ask a busy person. So when you are capable of doing that, more and more comes to you. And so what happens as a result of that, that becomes our drive. We can find 1,000 reasons why we can justify ourselves and say, well, I enjoy it, I'm good at it, people ask me to do it, and I can produce results. And so what can I do? All of that completely and utterly true. And yet what I found some years ago, that while I was doing all of this, my internal state, I'm a yogi, I'm a meditator, and even at that time, I'd been meditating for 30 odd years, but still there was a part of me that was extremely thirsty for something. It was thirsty for this kind of experience, this experience of being in solitude, enjoying my own company, not feeling the need to constantly be engaged or feeling that I've got to respond to situations and circumstances very fast. So then I began a journey for myself. Having said that, I'm still an extrovert by nature, but I have started to carve out time. A good friend of mine was saying, he lives on his own, BK, he lives on his own completely, and I live in a community with lots of people and active and busy, whereas he's a writer, so he's by himself, he's thinking a lot, he spends time on his own mostly. So he said to me, Manda, you need to do what I do, and I need to do what you do. And not that he said, I'm willing to do what you do, but if you did what I did, then you would make big discoveries about yourself. And he would say to me, just sit on the sofa, lie on the sofa and stare at the ceiling. Watch how long you can do that for. And I have to say, I have tried and I have practiced in order to build up my own, not just a practice, my own desire to be in solitude. And why is it that I want to? I'm not going to the definitions of solitude and any of that, because you've had so many definitions, some amazing definitions and amazing explanations. So I don't want to go into that. And what I started to discover was that every time I was in solitude even, I would always find something to do. There was always something to do. If something, even if it was the laundry that needed to be done, I had to get that out the way. I'd see a little bit of dirt and I need to clean that. Or all the stuff that had been left undone would come to the surface. So why I'm sharing this is because we can find 1,000 reasons. Or your phone sits next to you, and what do? The first thing you do the moment you've got time free is reach for your phone. And you reach for your phone for this stimulus, this natural form of stimulus, if you like, which is draining you, which is also a form of company. And so I feel that it is essential on a daily basis to carve out time to be in your own company. Most people are afraid to be in their own company because in their own company, they will find things that they don't like about themselves. or they will find things that will make them see that I need to do something about this. There are so many different ways in which we stay in company. One, when I say to stay in my own company, I don't mean that I want to stay in the company of Manda. I want to stay in the company of this subtle, spiritual, conscious thinking energy that I know I am. When I am in that awareness, I'm not Manda. Manda has a personality. She thinks in a certain way. She behaves in a certain way. She has certain likes and she has certain dislikes. She has preferences. All of this is an intrusion. My personality, which is an acquired self, is an intrusion in me being with my own self. So first and foremost, if you want to be able to be in solitude, define solitude for yourself, not what you've been hearing last week, this week, or what everybody else has been saying. You have to define solitude for your own self by understanding some spiritual truths which you've been hearing about. So for me, to be in solitude is to be in my own company, in the awareness of myself as a spiritual being, conscient, living, thinking, pure energy. This is who I am. That's an understanding as a first step. And after that understanding, there has to be the practice of it. Practice. And as I continue to practice, I begin to be comfortable and recognize the incredible beauty that lies within that state of being. An incredible beauty. And as I begin to appreciate and enjoy and recognize its value for my own self, which is the single most important thing, then I want to stay in that place. I want to stay, I want to savor that experience. And so when I want to savor that experience, I reach into that experience again and again and again. And what I begin to do as I build that experience, I begin to recognize the separation between myself and what's outside of me. Recently, I've had an interesting experience in that I had eye surgery a couple of years ago, and it's removal of cataract. And nowadays they put these sophisticated, incredible lenses that basically free you from glasses for the rest of your life. So that's, you know, the near vision and far vision. So I have these lenses, and one day, in fact, I was in Australia at the time, and I'm just hanging my washing out. And as I'm hanging my washing out, and my washing was just this, everything was white. And suddenly I can see that it's as if I'm looking through a screen of some kind. It was a very soft, subtle screen. And I realized it was something to do with these new lenses that are in my eyes. And everything felt beyond, outside of that screen, felt translucent, but it was like I was looking through something, a window of something else. And so I'm kind of relating that to this practice of this awareness of myself as this incredible, subtle, spiritual energy. And that everything that is not that is separate from me. It's a practice that I have to have. I have to sit and sit and sit and sit some more to get to grips with that experience, that I begin to basically feel incredible energy from that. And that energy you can define as whatever you want. You can define as concentration. You can define as contentment. You can define as power. You can define it as all of those things. You can define it as a power of a decisiveness or discernment. All of those things. But those labelings can be applicable in certain spaces and in certain times, which then comes naturally when I'm able to stay in this state. You know, if I think about concentration, then suddenly we start to go, okay, I got to sit still, I got to be quiet, I got to really focus, I've got to think about one thing. And it becomes a heady exercise, an intellectual exercise. For me, what's become important is that I have to take it away from an intellectual practice. The practice has to be that whole of my being is engaged. My mind, my heart, my body, everything is engaged. Everything is in a state of alignment. It's not just my head that's thinking, well, let's do this, and then that, and then that. When I do this, that happens. When I do that, then that happens. It becomes a heady exercise. You know what the definition of meditation? I heard a while back, actually, and I'd forgotten it, and I heard it yesterday again. Meditation is a state of being in which you're beyond your intellect. So you're not rationalizing your experience, you're not analyzing your experience, you're not labeling your experience, you are just in a state. And as you do this, the greater the awareness of my own self, the greater this recognition of my state of solitude. Anything else that comes that is not that, or anything else that takes me away from that, is an intrusion, is an interference. And it only happens when I give it permission. Nobody gets inside my head. They don't force themselves inside my head, or even in my heart for that matter. I put them there. And then I say, they're there and I can't get them out. And the other thing that I feel that happens, it's only when I create this internal world of myself. It is then that I can build a relationship with things outside of me. Otherwise, it's not possible to build a relationship. I can absolutely say with guarantee that none of us have a relationship with anything. We all have subservience or dependency, even with our own body. Even with my own body, I need to learn to have a relationship. When you have a relationship with someone, what happens? You communicate, you listen, you talk, and therefore you understand. and you comply on the basis of what you understand, right? So let's just take the example of your own body. When I have a relationship, when I am able to internally create that space for myself, then I can listen to my body. What does it need? What is it asking me for? So it's not that I'm listening to the body first, but I'm being in solitude first. I'm becoming clean of all the filters that I use in my life on a daily basis. Preferences, likes, dislikes, as I said, good, bad, ugly, beautiful, right, wrong, all of these filters that do not allow me to experience the beauty and the truth of myself at all. I remember last year, actually, around this time, I was with someone, and this person said to me, we were talking about something. It was a group of us, and he said, and I was struck by it. He said, you know, I don't have to have an opinion about everything. Simple, young man. I don't have to have an opinion about everything. So simple. Can you imagine yourself being free from opinions? When you are, you can be in solitude. So it's only when I create this kind of, you know, a pure and a clean space inside myself, then I can really, truly connect with God. Do you think God has likes and dislikes? Do you think God has preferences? Do you think God gets distracted like that with something else that's happening over here when actually he's focused on attention over there? Don't think so. If you, and when you're in the presence of God, what would there be? What would there be present? Absolute and complete presence. Holding of space only because God is so inside of himself. He's not preoccupied by what's going on, who's doing what, why are they doing that, and why aren't they doing that, even though he knows exactly what is right and what is not right. Does God, do you think, ever get preoccupied by that? Right, wrong, good, bad? Completely. I have the experience of being in the company of God. God knows exactly what is. So on the one hand, would you say God practices solitude? Or he is solitude? Because God's world is so complete, so filled with deep and profound silence that never comes outside of himself. Never comes outside of himself. So for me, to be in solitude is to never come outside of yourself. And that doesn't mean that you're walking around with your eyes closed and insular. Doesn't mean that at all. It means that you see everything outside of yourself. You know exactly what's going on. You know that God knows exactly what's going on. And yet, it doesn't become part of it. I remember Daddy Janki, when you spoke to her about something, anything, if there was a situation that was on your mind, she would listen and she would be present. And you also felt her inside herself. And if there was something she could do about it, like, okay, speak to this one or do that or move this from there, that to there to here, she would do it. But if there was nothing she could do physically, inside, even though she was inside herself, in a sense, in solitude, but you felt like she was doing something about it. In the sense that she was creating some positive thoughts and feelings and energy or whatever. That was going to influence, that was going to help sort the situation out. So why I'm saying that is because solitude, we have some sort of misconception about what it is. As if you are cutting yourself off from the world and therefore you can't do everything that you normally do. That's not the case. You can do everything that you can do, that you do, but yet you're inside yourself. And this can only happen, though, that when you have the practice, and we have the practice. For us, 4 o'clock to 8 o'clock in the morning are the time to practice solitude. You can't do it at other times in that way. But you can between 4 a.m. and 8 a.m. So often we get asked this question, don't we? Why do you meditate at 4 o'clock in the morning? Nobody's going to ring your phone. There's no shops to go to. Well, nowadays there's internet, of course, but you can always switch that off. But there is nothing to do at 4 o'clock in the morning. There are lots of other deeper spiritual reasons as well. But otherwise, there is nothing to do, nowhere to go, nobody's waiting for you anywhere. It's the ultimate time to practice solitude. The ultimate time to be in your own company. The ultimate time to be in the company of God. And you've heard the definitions of going into the depth of one. And that could be anything. It could be the depth of yourself. It could be the depth of God, or sometimes a situation or a task requires your focused attention. And even when you do that, it's a form of solitude, really. I remember some time back, we had an event here with Dadi and the top neuroscientists of the country. And it was the first time that, for us as the BKs, such a prominent scientist was going to be in a conversation with a spiritual person like Dadi Janki. So we would be, we were putting Dadi through the scenario she wanted to. We were putting her through the scenarios of practicing, talking to a non-BK, talking to a scientist, different kinds of scientists, so she would get the hang of it. And I remember one particular scientist coming along and saying, or Dadi, I think, saying that spirituality, the practice of spirituality, is also a form of science. Because just as scientists will give focused attention to something, scientists will go into the depth, they go down in the cellars, into their research laboratory. And they're there, you know, scientists will do something for hours on end without becoming distracted by anything else, because they're so absorbed in what they're doing, except that they're just doing something physical. Whereas we are doing that. He said, I'm also a scientist. I'm a spiritual scientist. I too go into a world like that. But the other quality about scientists is that a true scientist will always be open to more, always be open to a different outcome, a different result. Because scientists are researchers. And we are the same. We, the spiritual people, are a form of scientists. That we do this internal, inner exploration about ourselves. But the other thing I also wanted to emphasize was that this aspect that I mentioned about introvert and extrovert, we are what we are. I'm an extrovert and I can't completely be an introvert. I know that there is an introvert side of me, side to me. I just need to bring it up more and more, encourage it. And so I'm also now, for Manojbhai mentioned about the Global Retreat Center, and it's true, for 25 years, I oversaw it, managed it, and we did incredible things. And then I had to come to a point where I had to say, actually, I think this task has to be shared with other people, and it's too much for one person. I too need to draw the line, because I too need to take myself into that deeper awareness of myself. And I need, sometimes if I'm constantly engaged in doing and in being at the forefront of everything, I can't, I at least sometime I need to take where I can separate myself from the things that I need to do and the things that I don't need to do. And I have this incredible over-exaggerated sense of responsibility and wanting to do everything in a certain way. We all like that, right? Controlling, wanting things in a certain way. And so you have to separate yourself. If you want to introduce greater solitude, you have to step back, Anything, any reason that one gives about devices or family or children, all of that is ultimately my own excuses. So I'll stop here to invite any thoughts or comments that you might have, and then we can see what we want to do.
Thank you so much for sharing your experiences. We'll take a few questions. If you all can start sending me your questions. Usually in the workshop, people don't ask a lot of questions, but I had a few questions from the last talk, which I wasn't able to ask Jayanti Didi. So I'll just ask you if that's okay. That it is mentioned that solitary trees, if they grow at all, grow strong. So is it something related to us as well?
Well, I wouldn't necessarily say it's entirely related to us as well. We are creatures of connection as human beings. No man is an island. We belong to each other and we belong to no one. So in a sense, I feel though that human spirit needs companionship and other relationships. So I don't think that but you can build your internal strength and your roots very strong inside yourself, and then you can come out and reach out to other people. So I don't think it's about completely being in solitude or being solitary myself. And because other people help us to bring the best out of us, and we help other people bring the best out of them. So I feel as human beings, we need connection. So yeah, I take time, as I said, to strengthen myself and to create that inner world. But then we also need each other. We need connection. But it's how we connect is the big issue.
Sure. So another thing is said that only mindful people can enjoy the blissfulness of solitude. Mindful people.
Okay, I wouldn't say only mindful. I would say mindful people enjoy blissful solitude, but then we can all be mindful. It's, if you position it like that, only mindful, then somebody would say, well, I'm not mindful, so I can't do it. It's not that. Mindful people generally, which we can all be mindful, and we can all enjoy solitude. Mindful simply just means attentive. Mindful simply means aware. Mindful means to be considerate and approaching and relating, and not be like a bull in a Chinatown, as the expression goes.
Okay, so a question is coming here that how do I let go of people's behaviors? Because when I'm in solitude, I keep thinking about them, what they have done with me.
Well, this is where we have knowledge and understanding, and that is that everybody is what they are. I cannot do anything about that. And how does it help to think about them at any time, let alone in my solitude time or meditation time? How does it help to do anything about when somebody is in a certain way? They are what they are, and I cannot do anything about it. I can, but first I have to make peace with who they are and what they are. And I can do something about it more through being accepting and loving and appreciating and all of that. I can make peace with that person, and then I can help them change. But if I'm reacting, I'm rejecting, then I can't help them, and nor do I help myself. So for my own sanity, I have to just, they are what they are. Can I just accept them? Can I see another side of them that is beautiful and powerful and special?
True. There's another practical question, like the brother is saying, I have come into knowledge in 2021 during the COVID time there are many Zoom babies. All of us know that now. Children of come to knowledge through Zoom. He says, I like the solitude of Zoom and listen to the Murli classes on Zoom, but I find it apprehensive to go to the local center. So, I mean, can you help me with what should I do? Should I enjoy my solitude?
Well, listening to Murli, going to the center, that's a different experience in itself. There are other ways to get solitude, but going to the local center where the atmosphere is spiritual, going away from, all the things that you're bogged down with in terms of your household, in terms of the energy at home, to lift yourself out of that and go somewhere else, can really truly give a vision of the self. But also at the same time, I can actually enjoy the atmosphere. I can enjoy the spiritual energy that exists in a place, because the soul is here at the center of the forehead, and the soul is a subtle being, but the soul also absorbs energy through the physical, and that is through the body. And so going to the center, listening to the Murli in company of other people, that's a different experience. That's a totally different experience. Dadi Janki used to say, meditating by yourself is a very important thing to do. Meditating with a small group of people is a very special thing to do. That has a different experience. Meditating with a large group of people is also a different experience, but also valuable experience. When I was sharing with you earlier on about having this experience of the self as this just thinking, living, conscient energy, I had that incredible experience last weekend here. We had a retreat and we had 50 people in the retreat, 55 people in the retreat, and there were 25 others. We had 75 people in the room meditating. There was no effort. It was like you were instantly absorbed in yourself. And so I think the apprehension only is because you haven't tried it, but try it and recognize its power.
Sure, great. I'll just take this last question, a very interesting question, slightly lengthy. I'll squeeze it out for you. That the sister is saying introversion and being in solitude makes us less reactive and responding to external talks and people's judgments. But this brings an effect on me as I'm accepting all their comments, even if they are not right. So her question is it that I should not keep reacting and simply ignore them? How can I help myself here?
Well, I thought you said that being introvert and all of that is makes you respond as opposed to react. So I think suppressing is not the answer. I think that if people are doing things that don't work for you, you have to put it in a place, in the sense that understand, as we said earlier on, people will do what they do. You have no idea why they do what they do, or their personality that they have, or how they behave. All of that has a root and somewhere in somehow. So I just have to, it's not that I suppress my own feeling. And if somebody's doing something that doesn't work for me, can I actually go to them and say, and approach it in the way that saying, you know what, I appreciate what you're saying. However, this is what it made me feel, and it didn't feel comfortable to me. So I think it's trying to understand people where they're coming from, instead of just suppressing your own reactions and then saying I'm being introvert. That doesn't help. That doesn't help at all.
Great, wonderful. Thank you so much for all your answers. And we have our seniors with us. We don't have Dr. Mehta today because you'd be knowing that we have this Rejuvenating Medical Minds conference next Sunday in Mumbai. So he's extremely busy with organizing that because he's the main organizer there. And I would request now Sister Claudia to please propose the vote of thanks. Yeah, over to you.
Om Shanti. It's very nice to see you, Manda. You close the cycle. We talk about with Sister Janti that was a very introverted and come to you extroverted. And we know you how that you are extroverted, and also Hema, your sister too. So, but anyway, it's very nice to see you show someone who is extroverted talk about introversion. So you give a very practical a way how to be introverted but be extroverted. So thank you very much. It was very nice. Actually, it was really, because you have said everybody talk about everything, but you talk at a very good point, which is practical in life. So I always miss the time that I spend. I went only one time that I spent like 1 week in Oxford at the retreat center. I never forget, was a time to be really, like you said, to be in that company and being introverted and go deep inside.
Come again. Come again.
Yeah, that's what I want to go there sometime. Yeah.
On your way to Madhuban.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much for being with us today. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Om Shanti.
Om Shanti.
So let me just quickly do the announcements and then we'll go in the meditation mode. And Anu sister, you can be ready with the photograph to take that. Yeah. So as all of you know, it's the January month and we are covering these very subtle values which help us go inside and practice our stage towards perfection. So next in line is being essenseful, which also is an important value, helping us to go more inside and be more silent. It's the next Saturday. And as always, the time is 8:30 for India. And we have Sister Denise Lawrence, another eloquent speaker. She'll be joining from France, like her base now is moved to France. And after that, as always, the workshop a week after that will be again with another sister from UK, Sister Gopi. So we have the last 3-4 speakers all from UK. Sister Denise as well is from the UK. So we'll be sending you all these details. And yeah, people are asking for the YouTube links. Yeah, we all have these workshops recorded. We'll share, I'll just share actually with you right away. And we are doing 2 silence retreats. We have done one on solitude, and the next after the talk and workshop on Essenseful will be the silence retreat on Sunday. That is the last Sunday of the month. And this is our elegant calendar. We'll be sending it to you in the review materials as well. And if you can just note down, I think Sister Manjeet who was asking, these are our links. They'll be coming to you in the emails as well. But the workshops are on omshanti.tk/workshops. And the episodes are on omshanti.tk/playlist/English. And the other languages as well, if you want, you can write down accordingly. So I'll just stop sharing here. And over to you, Sister Anu, for the quick photograph, and then let us all be in the meditation mode. Do you want to do a commentary or just a music drishti?
Whatever you prefer, whatever you normally do, whatever is fine.
Okay, whatever suits you, that's fine with us as well. So anyway, so we'll see. We'll play some music as well, so that you can tell us some guided commentary. Yeah.
Okay, I'm taking photo now.
Yeah, sure.
More people, you can start your video if you want. Yeah, I got it. Your commentary will be great. Thank you, Sister Manda.
Okay.
Thank you, Sister Anu. So we'll all be in the meditation mode with Sister Manda. Over to you. Thanks.
Om Shanti. Sitting comfortably and quiet and relaxed. Allow yourself to just observe your thoughts. And instead of thoughts coming in and out without you directing them, choose your thoughts. First and foremost, directing your thoughts by paying attention to your breath. Noticing breath coming in and out of your body, rise and fall of your belly and your chest. And as you do this, there's automatic and natural sense of you being an observer of your own inner state. Notice how your body is so quiet. It's an incredible machinery that is working. You don't even realize it. But it's the breath, the oxygen that gives life to your body. It's this living, thinking, conscient energy of the soul that gives life to the breath. Become aware of this inner world inside yourself, of this deep inner peaceful being, this conscient thinking, loving energy of peace, separate from anything else that you might think you are. You are just this. Peace. As you hold yourself in this space, recognize who you are, separate from the physical body, the physical world. I am the one who gives life. I am this beautiful, soft, gentle presence. Presence of peace. Presence of love. Presence of beauty. And it is in this space, or from this place, that I relate to the world outside of me. I don't relate to the world to take something from it, but I relate to it to give to it. A soft, gentle world is who I am. In this pure, unconditional space, I can bring the presence of God. Presence that holds me and draws me to itself, but also draws me to myself. And together we form a world, this inner world, gentle, loving presence. Om Shanti.
Thank you so much, Sister Manda, for the excellent commentary and the experience, and also your presence as always. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Om Shanti.
Shanti.